Welcome to the Original Gangsters Patreon members only. It's been a couple weeks. We want to give everyone an update on what's going on with the Buffalo mob-connected racketeering trial. Right now, Joe Bongiovanni, the retired DEA agent, is in his second trial from these charges. His case has been separated from Peter Gerace Jr., the nephew of reputed Buffalo Mafia Don Joe Pizza Todaro. Gerace Jr. goes to trial on October 28th. This is the start of his jury selection. We should always be clear in saying that Joe Todaro Jr. has not been implicated in any of his nephew's alleged nefarious activities, and that Joe Todaro Jr. has never been convicted of a federal criminal offense, and pushes back on the notion that he is a mob don. But the federal government in Western New York taps him as the godfather, and his nephew is facing some pretty serious charges. And there's some stuff that came out related to Joe Pizza in some court filings over the last couple weeks that I want to touch on. The trial this week was in a recess for the week. It will resume next week. I'm guessing it's coming to a close pretty soon, and the defense should be given the ball. And I don't know how much a defense they'll put up, but I expect closing arguments by first week of October, and probably a decision by the second week. But two things that came out related to Bongiovanni and at least tangential connections to Joe Todaro Jr. In one case, less tangential than the other. So first thing that came out was that in a search of Bongiovanni's phone on a return trip from Costa Rica back in 2019, this was about 5 or 6 months before he was arrested, him and his wife and his stepson went to Costa Rica for a vacation. The feds wanted to get a hold of his phone, so they flagged him at the customs when he was coming back into the country. He was entering the country from Baltimore, and then was going to take a connecting flight to Buffalo. U.S. Customs and Homeland Security confiscated the phone and took it for about an hour, and downloaded all the information from it, downloaded his contact list, and a number of kind of suspicious people popped up on the contact list. One we already knew he was connected to, Mike the Gorilla Mafia, reputed Buffalo mob soldier, reputed Buffalo mob enforcer, convicted drug dealer, doing 8 years in prison right now, and also was a teacher and football coach. Very close friends with Bongiovanni. They stood up at each other's weddings. I believe they were each other's best men. And now Mike the Gorilla admitted as part of his plea a couple of years ago that he was paying Bongiovanni for protection. So his name was in the phone. We kind of knew that already. The name that is most interesting to me, at least, that we found in the phone was a guy they call Paulie Hot Dog, or just Hot Dog, Paul Francoforte, who is a building contractor, does remodeling, home remodels, in his mid 70s. I think he's 75 right now. Has not been identified publicly as a mobster or a mob associate. He's known as a legitimate businessman. But my sources have told me, and I've reported in the last couple of months, that Joe Todaro Jr. has a Monday dinner group that he hosts every Monday at Sinatra's restaurant, which is the family-owned restaurant of the first judge in this racketeering case, Judge John Sinatra Jr., who recused himself in the summer of 23. Now the judge is Judge Lawrence Villardo. But Judge Sinatra's family owns Sinatra's. It's a big hangout for Joe Todaro Jr., and he has a Monday dinner group. I've been told by multiple sources, I've seen surveillance photos, that the person that picks him up and drives him to this dinner group, and one of the, the staples of this dinner group is Hot Dog Franco Forte. Not positive about, where Franco Forte and Todaro Jr.'s relationship traces back to. They're around the same age. But again, Franco Forte has never been indicted or convicted of any racketeering offenses. I've seen some FBI intelligence memos that say that both Franco Forte and his father, who died about 12 years ago, were associated with members of organized crime, not necessarily doing business with them, but hanging out in social situations. I just want to be very clear on Hot Dog's role. But this does allow us to draw a line between Bon Giovanni to Todaro Jr., more so than just the nephew. Now we know that he was, or has been, or was in frequent contact or semi-frequent contact with Hot Dog Franco Forte, who sees Joe Pizza on a regular basis. The last piece of information that came out that connects, or semi-connects, Bon Giovanni to Todaro Jr. was a police stop from the Buffalo PD from 2012 that also made it into a recent court filing. And in the 2012 police stop, I believe it was November of 2012, Bon Giovanni was in the car with somebody whose name is redacted, so I don't know who the person is, but according to the document that was drafted and that made it into the file, this person is a close associate and confidant, those are the words that the government used, of Joe Todaro Jr., and is known to often be going across the border between Niagara Falls, New York, and Niagara Falls, Canada, on the Rainbow Bridge. And according to federal sources, the reason he's making these trips is as a relay man for Todaro Jr., who has, soldiers and associates across the border in Canada. And that this guy, he drives back in 2012, drove a Mercedes-Benz. And we know, based on, I think, a mistake where it should have been redacted, but it wasn't, says that he was born in 1948. So right now he would be 78 years old. We don't even know if he's still alive, but back in 2012, he was acting as a relay guy. I've talked to some other people that know about relay men for Joe Todaro Jr., and I've been told, most of these guys, if not all of them, don't have criminal records. I've told one of them owns a pizza parlor. Another one of them is a butcher. I don't know about the guy that we just found about in that document, but this is how stealth Joe Pizza is. And now we're seeing, again, some tangential connections, at the very least, to Joe Bon Giovanni, who's on trial right now, accused of shielding Buffalo Mafia drug operations from federal scrutiny and collecting at least $250,000 for it. So that's our update from Buffalo. Check back next week when this trial resumes, and we have some more testimony, and we'll deep dive it here at OG Members Only Patreon. I'll see you next time.